Next in the series, we've got books 11 through 30. You want to know what these are? You got to stick around. Welcome back, family, to part two of this series of the top 50 books in my collection, slab books in my collection. Again, no raw books, no Funko Pops sneaking in anywhere like I did in the top 20 of 2024, but just slab books from the wall, from behind me, in what I consider to be my personal ranking today. Tomorrow may change, the day before may change. So if you see something ranked slightly different than it was in the top 20 of 2024, it's because today I just felt different. Everybody has a chance to look at their own collection differently. And, maybe one day a book is more important to you than it was the day before, or vice versa. You just got to go with it. It's your collection. You enjoy it. And just today, this is how I'm looking at things. So without blabbering too much more, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about book number, slot number 30 on the list, which is actually a double shot. It's a twin shot. I have one double shot in each one of the lists. I did the one that was in, what was my, there was the Radiant Pink Nightclub, which was in the first list. I have another one that'll be in the top 10 list. But for this one, it's just a double shot, and I have to say it's a double shot because I'm really, really proud of the fact that I've got two of these the way things are right now, because thank you, Jason Momoa and James Gunn, for making the announcement, which made my two Mega Men 9.8s skyrocket in price. Thank you so much. That is number 30 on the list of my best books on my wall. Number 29 on the list is, we'll take a little bit of explanation. You're probably going to look at it and go, what? Why? I don't get it. But you will by the time it's over. It's a 1978 Miss Marvel number 13. No key whatsoever, but it is a 9.8. And again, people are like, and so it's a 9.8 Miss Marvel. Does anybody care? But you got to see that's got a yellow label up at the top. And it's because it's double signed by Chris Claremont and Stan Lee. So I was able to get a 1978 9.8 book signed not only by Stan Lee, but also by Chris Claremont. And you can see that neither one of them has ever really cared about signature placement. You got that nice black marker there. God forbid you had to put it over here in the white area, but Stan was never, has never been accused of putting his signature in the best spot. And Claremont with the black marker right across the red lettering with black background, he's competing with bad placement with Mr. Stan Lee himself. But, yep. I wanted to get a 9.8. This is 1978, so it's a newsstand, which I think they pretty much all are at this point. And double signed. That's, a book I came across and before Stan passed away, because I knew his age. I had a couple of Stan Lee signed books. I gave one as a Christmas present, but this one is keeping myself because it's double signed, which you just don't get the opportunity once they pass away anymore. Okay, next. Okay, so if you're noticing little glitches in the Matrix, it's because I go to the wall, I get two books, I record those two books, I hit pause, I put those two books back, I get the next ones off my list, next two, and continue. Because I just don't want to take all the books down, have all the empty spaces for one, and B, for people that really know my wall, they might say, oh, I know that book's going to be coming up, and that book's going to be coming up. I want to surprise you guys a little bit. All right, so coming in at number 28 is a book that I purchased in 2024 for Miss Zona. And we've got DC Comics number 47, newsstand edition, first appearance of He-Man, Skeletor, and Battle Cat, I think it was. He-Man, Battle Cat, and Skeletor in comics. So finding this newsstand edition as well, 9.6. It's kind of tougher to find in the higher grades, so 9.8 just, so I didn't get that, but a 9.6 is a pretty good book. I never really sat down and looked at it to know if it's possible to CPR it, crack press release, not cardiopulmonary resuscitation, but maybe someday I'll take a look at it and decide if that's a possibility. Initial impression, I'd say no, but I'll get more into it at some point. Number 27 on the list it's a decent grade, and I think but I was able to get it for a really good price because there's a printing error on it. There was a leak of the ink on the spine, which does not affect the grading at all, and unless you really know to look for it, you don't, well, you see it more on the back, but it's an X-Men 94. This is not the Giant Size X-Men number 1, which is the first appearance of all the characters. This is the second appearance of Storm and Colossus and Nightcrawler and Thunderbird. It's got the custom label on it. Now I'll get in close and you can see that blue on the spine there, which really shows up there. That dark blue, which is with the color that they were using for the backgrounds. And that's, yeah, again, they don't hold it against the grade. And Sunfire leaves the team at this point. I think he was on the team for like 20 seconds. But I always, I want to get a 101, first appearance of Phoenix. I want to get a GSX-1. I can't afford an X-Men number 1 anymore. And I want to get a 94. So I pulled the trigger on the 94 last year because I had one, I'm willing to take that ink problem on it to get a nice 5.5 white page with a good custom label on it. So that's what I was able to move on. Okay, let's hit a couple number 1s for our next couple books here. Got coming in at number 26. This is a book actually I just came across. I'm like, I didn't even know what the book looked like, because it wasn't like on my radar. And I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's what number 1 looks like of that book. And then I started researching and happened to, again, you find those good prices on books and you just want to add them to your collection to get a nice Aquaman number 1. It's a 4.5, which is a good one. It's the first appearance of Quisp. I don't know who Quisp is. I was never a reader of Aquaman, so if you're an Aquaman fan and you're mad at me that I don't know who Quisp is, I do apologize. It does have a Topo cameo. I don't know who Topo is either. But I do know an Aquaman number 1. Next up is number 25. We're hitting the top half of the list now, and let's bring it in style with a nice Iron Man number 1. It's a 4.0, but it is an off-white page. Not an off-white to light or a white. It's an off-white page itself. This is the story continued from Iron Man and Submariner number 1. The origin of Iron Man is retold. And, God, I remember when I was collecting comic books as a kid, I'll be honest, nobody wanted this book. Or the Submariner number 1 was more expensive than the Iron Man number 1. It was. This was like $40 in near mint condition. Nobody wanted it. It was because of the MCU that this book has shot up and gotten, all the worldwide prominence that it is. I don't think it'll ever go back down to where it was, in obscurity like it was back then. But it's definitely not selling for what it was when Downey was flying around in the Iron Man armor. So I didn't buy it during its height, thankfully, but got that 4.0. By the way, and Greg was mad at me for getting the 4.0 because he had, I think he's got the Submariner number 1 and the Submariner Iron Man in number 1. He wanted the 4.0 to collect, to complete the trio. I didn't even realize he had a 4.0 in those books. So he's like, oh, you had to get a 4.0? I'm like, well, it was for sale. Why? And I felt bad about it. So maybe someday I'll be able to upgrade that book and send it to him as an A-OK. We'll see. Next one on the list is number 24. And this one's not a number 1, but it is a first appearance. We're jumping back to DC for and it also, guys, it's a PGX. I think it's the only PGX in my collection. But when it comes to a first appearance of Zatanna, you're not going to say no. I've seen like 9.8s of PGX come back like a 9.2 in CGC, but usually when you get to like the 3.0s, the 4.0s, the 6.0s, whatever, the grades are pretty standard. So if I set this to CGC, I'd probably get a 3.0. I've even seen people get a little bit of a grade bump saying to 3.5. It's a bit rough on the spine. It's got a lot of color breaking creases in it, but there's no missing sections. The back cover looks like it could use a cleaning, honestly. But other than that, though, it's a solid-looking book. And, again, it's the first appearance of Zatanna. And we haven't gotten any kind of Zatanna casting news or news of storylines. But can you imagine when we do? Yay! Let's move on. Let me get some different books. Okay, moving on with the list, we got number 23 on the list. We have a Shock Suspense Stories number 13 in a nice 5.5 white page. Now, the majority of the shock suspense stories, crime suspense stories, weird fantasies, all those EC books that really are coveted ones are ones that have like a decapitation or a hanging or something like that on the cover. But this one's actually pretty good too, because this was the only storyline written for EC by Frank Frazetta, the creator of Vampirella. So if you're a Frank Frazetta fan, this is the only solo story that he wrote for EC Comics. And it's in a pretty decent 5.5 white page condition. Coming in number 22, we're going to stay with EC for another book, but we're really going to take a step up in the condition with a weird fantasy number 11 from 1952 in an 8.5. This one I just got recently. So excited to get a high grade EC books. So many of them are 2.0s, 3.0s, and they start paying through the nose once you break the 4.0 mark. But look at how beautifully white that back cover is. That weird fantasy, incredible. We've got hypodermic needle panels and an atomic explosion panel, so they were a bit still controversial. Remember, most of the stories in the EC and those types of stories that really drove the congressional hearings, saying that our youth were being corrupted, and that's what I think they would call these SOTI investigations, which eventually created the Comics Code Authority, which really regulated the types of stories and artwork that they could put on comic books. So the next one on the list, coming in at number 21, halfway through the list now, this is a book that I always wanted. Even when I was a kid, I always wanted this book in a high grade, but it seemed like every time I remembered to buy it, there was a movie out. And every time the movie, if it wasn't in the popular news, I'd forget about it, but I still always wanted it. And I finally found one and picked it up before the hype at last year from the 2 movies that came out as regards. But this is one of those books I'm like, yes, I got one. Finally, in a 9.8 white page. Godzilla, number 1. Don't forget, it's also got Nick Fury and Dum Dum Dugan. Godzilla is illustration by Dave Cockrum, Doug Mensch story, Herb Trimp, and Jim Mooney art. But I always wanted to have that really high-grade Godzilla number 1, and I was able to get a 9.8 white page with the old label, too. With Dr. J. Duncan in the back, if you remember that. And then Godzilla -1 hits, and then Godzilla with the King Kong, the one where they did dental work on King Kong. Dumb. It was, I'm sorry, that Godzilla movie, especially after Godzilla -1, was so insulting with the storyline. But still, it was Godzilla, and I loved it. And I'm looking forward to the next Toho Studios release, because that was just great. If you haven't seen Godzilla -1, you've got to watch it. Make sure you watch the subtitle version. It's so great, so much better, and it's not, you're not going to miss the movie reading it. They did it perfectly. One other thing, if you had the opportunity to watch the black and white version, oh man, that just gave it a whole different feel. Okay, so add that to your watch list. You will not regret it. I know one person that said it wasn't that great, and every other person I recommended it to, they're like, that was amazing. Okay. Let's move on with this countdown, though. Okay, I've got the next 3 book stage and ready to go, so let's jump to number 20 on the list. This is another one of the Mickey Mouse magazines. This one is from January 1938. It is welcoming in the new year, and you've got little baby Donald. It's not baby, but, in a diaper with 1938, and old man Goofy. And if you look at it, it's got, on the sickle, they've got a cork there, because even Disney has to keep things safe. But it was a nice 7.0 on the Mickey Mouse magazine. Nice full advertisement on the back for the Ingersoll Mickey Mouse watch, which was $3.95, or I think it was $1.50 for the pocket watch. If I read down here. Yes, pocket watch with a lapel cord for only $1.50. But a 1938 Walt Disney book in off-white to white pages in a 7.0. I saw that and I was just, I gotta have that. Okay, the next one is a trade that I made a long time ago with some books that were at the time really hot, and I probably could have done better in the trade, but all the books that I traded have tanked, and this book has not. And it's one of those books that I didn't care if I was only getting, say, 50 cents on the dollar on hot books. What I cared about was the fact that how this book made me feel. It's a 5.0 off-white to white page, Fantastic Four number 9. In case you're wondering what did I trade for it, I think it was the first appearance of Carnage in a 9.6. I think there was a Young Avengers in a 9.6. Couple other books, no 9.8s, no, you know, at that during their peaks is when I traded them, and I walked away with this, and I felt so good about it. This is one of those books I can still look at and just smile. And now with the FF movie about to come out, of course, this is one of the top first 10 issues. This one's from 1962, so we can't complain about that one at all. Speaking of movies coming out and not complaining at all, this is a book that I took some flack from a couple of friends that my collection was so heavy in Marvel and so weak in DC. So I made it a point, not last year, but the year before, to add some quality DC books. And this was one of the best ones that I added at that time. It's not a key book, but like I said, it's an old book, and it's a good grade. So we've got Superman number 40. You can see how white that cover looks. You see the number up there? 7.0. It's got Mr. Mxyzptlk and Susie appearance. They're the two running around them at that time. It's 7.0 off-white page from 1946. 1946 Superman book in 7.0 condition. Really cool Ever-Ready commercial on the back. Ad, rather. So that was the Superman, the DC Superman book. You saw the Batman number 29 that I picked up. I got the Superman, and I've got one other, could be the double shot that I was talking about, in the top 10, which you'll see in a little bit. In the next video, the top 10. All right, but let me switch these out for the next books on the list, and we'll continue. Okay, I'm an idiot. I put those books away. I looked at the list, and I realized that next double shot, it's actually the next one on the list. It's not in the top 10. It's right here. So this one's coming in at number 17. It's the double shot, the last one that I have on my list. They're not the same book, but they're sequential books. So we got number 16 and number 17 of Wonder Woman. So let me show these one at a time. We got In Pluto's Kingdom. This is when she was wearing shorts. And Riding a Buffalo. Come on. Doesn't get much better than that. So number 17 is at a 4.5 off-white to white page. It's got the 4-page feature on Emma Willard, written by Alice Marble and drawn by Alonso Green. And Wonder Woman number 16 is a 3.0 creamed off-white. 4-page Madame Curie feature written by Alice Marble and drawn by Alonso Green. So I guess, I know who Madame Curie is. I'm not familiar who Emma Willard is. So I guess they had a 4-page feature in these books educating the youth at the time who prominent women in history were. So I got myself a nice sequential 16 and 17 of Wonder Woman. These go back to 1946. So that's why I put those together. I just feel like they should stay together, those two books. I bought them separately, but you know what's funny? When I bought them, I didn't even realize that they were sequential numbers until I went to type them into cover price. I'm like, oh, cool. All right, so the next one is a book I didn't even really know existed. Just you happen to see those books once in a while, and you're like, what's that? Oh, wow, cool. 1948. Tarzan, #1. Now he had been in, this is not his first comic book appearance. He had been in other comic books with other people, but this is his first standalone comic. And it's a nice 7.0, light tanned off-white, so the page quality really isn't there. It has a back cover pin-up, which that really does look pretty cool. So yeah, I was able to pick up a Tarzan #1 without even knowing that it existed. Okay, let's move on with the list. Next number we're going to be hitting is number 15. Okay, we're all primed for the next three. We got book number 15 on my list of the top 50 slabs in my collection at the end of 2024. And this is an absolute iconic cover and a first appearance of a major character. We've got Spider-Man number 50. It's a 4.0, but it is a white page. This is the first appearance of Kingpin. And if you know issue number 51, which I've got a couple of copies of, but not really high grade, that's why they didn't make the list. Issue 51 is the first cover appearance of Kingpin. So, looks like the kid who owned this book originally wrote his name on it just to make his life a little easier. I'm not going to read it and announce it. But yeah, this is my first appearance of the Kingpin in a Spider-Man 50 in a 4.0 white page. Looking forward to the new Daredevil series with Vincent D'Onofrio doing an excellent, I love the job he's doing. Michael Clark Duncan did a very good job with Kingpin as well, but it just wasn't well written. Coming up at number 14 on the list, this is one of those really iconic covers. I got a 5.5, which I'm very, very happy. It's a Silver Surfer number 4. You know, that awesome cover that shows Silver Surfer fighting with Thor on the Rainbow Bridge. This was the issue after the first appearance of Mephisto, which I also have on the wall. I think I got a 3.5 in that. Didn't make my top list because I think most of the world is just Mephisto'd out until we actually see him. And get the same ad on the back. It was a very popular ad back then. So that was number 14 on my list. And then coming in at number 13, leaving two more left after this, is Walt Disney Comics and Stories number 31. It's a restored grade, but it is a 7.0 and looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if I can show this book. It should look gorgeous if it's restored, right? But this is the first Carl Barks Donald Duck Stories Begin. And what did he draw for 30 years? One of the most iconic artists ever. He's considered one of the top 10 artists of all time. Drew, like I said, Donald Duck for I think for 30 years or 35 years. And this is the issue where it began. So this is an absolute key to Walt Disney Comics collectors. I've got a lot of different Walt Disney Comics issues. This is one of my favorite ones, of course. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay, so we got 2 books left on this countdown. One you're not going to know, and one you will. How about that? We'll start with the one that you probably won't know. But again, if it's important to me, it may be interesting to you. It might open up a whole new world of things for you to collect. So we've got Exciting Comics, number 45 from 1946. This has the Black Terror, the nemesis of crime, and more importantly, it's an Alex Schomburg robot cover. Not just an Alex Schomburg cover, but Alex Schomburg's robot covers. And if one of the most famous, covers of all time is people call it the Bender cover. Let me see here. Okay, guys, look it up. Startling Comics, number 49. Cover by Alex Schomburg, and people refer to it as the Bender cover because the robot kind of looks like Bender from Futurama. I'm not sure if actually Bender was inspired by that, but this is what the book looks like. You can see it. This is a 1.0, and they're asking 1.0 brittle pages. They're asking 10,700 or best offer. I guarantee you, the best offer is not going to be that much less. Yeah, this is just an iconic key book because people just love robot books, robot covers that are drawn by Schomburg. So since I was able to get a Schomburg with a robot on it. It is a qualified grade because there are a couple of little panels missing on a couple of pages, similar, like, you know, like maybe the coupons were cut out or something like that. But this is another one of those books that I purchased for my time on, what do you call it? One of the shows of Rob's Fast Action Comics Only Slabs, which he does every Saturday. The world's greatest giveaway box, by the way, also. So, yeah, I bought this one. I think it was for the third show that I did because I just wanted to have something to really go out with a bang and have that nice Alex Schomburg, and I know he loves the robot covers as well, to just make him smile. You know, I mean, he does so much for the community. We got to do some stuff for him too. And let's see now. Out this list and preparing yourself for the top 10. Just think about it. If this next book did not make the top 10, what do I have in store for you in the next video? We got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. It's the third print, but it's a 7.5. The fourth print is where they really changed the cover, but this is one of the most homaged covers, just along with the Spider-Man 300, and this is one of those covers that it's constantly homage. This one is from 1985. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, story and art, and Kevin Eastman drew the cover. Origin and first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Splinter and Shredder, and it has a wraparound cover. A lot of people don't realize that cover does wrap around all the way. So, yep, I can't afford a second or a first anymore, but I got myself a third so I could put it into the collection, and it does look really great. All right, guys, I want to say thank you for joining me here for this show, for the 11 through 30 of the best slabs in my collection at the end of 2024. I will immediately be jumping right into recording the one that you're all waiting for. It's the show for books 1 through 10, or 10 through 1, however you want to look at it, of the best books in my collection at the end of 2024. Look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, though, don't forget to click like, click subscribe, drop a comment down below. I want to know what kind of books are in your collection. What books do you think I should have put higher, should have put lower? Anything, any kind of comments are always welcome, just as long as you keep them clean and keep them comics. And tune in for New Comic Book Day. We give away books. We have our cover price top 20 analysis every Monday. Those are both live shows that I just mentioned. So just join us, have some fun. Jump in the chat at any time when we're having these things. We'd love to hear from you. But until I see you in the next video, thanks for joining. Mahalo.